Angela Fazio is an industry powerhouse who has overseen 40,000 homes sold and $9 billion in production. And Kristen Cantrell is one of the nation's most accomplished team leaders, helping thousands of agents build their businesses. They are passionate about educating, encouraging, and empowering moms in real estate. Our next episode starts now.
Hi, everyone. This is Angela Fazio, and this is Moms in Real Estate.
And I am Kristen Cantrell, and today I have the pleasure of introducing Allonda Hawkins from North Carolina. And today, you guys, she's going to talk to us about intentional motherhood, and you guys are going to get so much from her because she is fabulous. So can you get us started and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name, of course, as you just introduced, I'm Allonda Hawkins. I am in North Carolina. I am a realtor with Keller Williams. I am a mom of 4. My kids range in age from 11, so I've got one entering middle school, all the way down to a 5-year-old who is entering kindergarten. So, of course, lots of stages of life there. I'm a wife. I've been married for, I hope he's going to tell me.
That's a lot. Don't worry.
A long time.
I think I've been married 14 years. We've been together 16, married 14. Oh, gosh. You'll definitely get it for that. And yeah, I mean, mom, wife, realtor, super busy business, which I'm super grateful for. I am in the top 5% of my firm, the top 10% of our entire MLS.
Oh,
but
dang.
I'm also... Thank you. But I'm also really, really serious about, maintaining my role as a mom. It's not easy, and I don't necessarily believe that it's always possible to perfectly balance, but I do feel that it's possible to do both well.
I agree with you. And one of the things I'm so impressed by you about is your story. And when you tell your story of going from being a stay-at-home mom into your real estate career, which is so successful, I love the way that you describe how it affected you as a woman. So would you share that with us?
Yes, definitely. So my husband had been a pastor for about 10 years. And for a large portion of that time, I was a stay-at-home mom. As we started our family and, kept adding children pretty quickly. And appreciated that he, offered that as an option for me. And I loved my kids, and I loved being home. I lost a lot of myself because I am an overachiever. So I thought that, the role that I had to play was to go really hard in that role. But I all I did was spend time pouring out myself to them. And I felt like I only existed to serve others. And I didn't spend any time kind of pouring back into myself or, discovering anything about myself. And I honestly ended up very depleted. And I felt like it physically I was home with my kids, but I felt very disconnected and not very present. I spent a lot of time, cleaning and, taking care of things, but I didn't have a lot of eye contact and just down and actually spending time with them. And I felt very depleted. I felt like I didn't really exist. And that was an actual phrase that I said to my husband is I felt like I don't exist. I felt like,
wow.
I just exist to be here for you all. And that can feel noble, but it isn't, honestly, in my opinion. I think that
it's not biblical.
Didn't realize, no, not at all. And I didn't realize that I deserved, I owed it to myself. And that was a responsibility of mine to also care for myself, right? And so, and that wasn't necessarily an environment that was being created. That was me being the martyr and creating that environment myself. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I did my kids a disservice because they didn't get to see the fullness of who I am, right?
Well,
and so what?
Oh, sorry. I want to stop on that for a second because I feel like so many people feel this need to be there, but like you're saying, when you're not present and you're doing your children a disservice because you're just doing all these things and you don't feel fulfilled inside, you have to stop like you did and do something about it. I definitely love that you said that. It was such a a picture in my head, and I can think to a lot of different times throughout my career where I've actually felt very empty, like at home from that. And I don't know, I love that. So, all right, go ahead, continue.
And I want to make sure that I'm like acknowledging, like it's a noble, I think it's a noble choice to make if you choose to stay home. Like I want to make sure I'm not bashing that. I'm just more so saying that we have a responsibility, if that is a route that you take, to like reclaim your own identity as well. Like you're not being less of a mom, and I feel like you're being a better mom if you are like, taking that time to learn who you are and to advocate for yourself in that way. And so when I became a realtor, I honestly started to discover that I had the ability to become a better mother because I was happier. I had something that belonged to myself. Honestly, my kids felt proud. Like, we'd have conversations, and it was an opportunity to teach them, like, this is a choice that mommy is making, and, this is something that belongs to me. However, I'm still very much your mom. I'm still very much going to be supportive. I'm going to be all up in your mix and in your business. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that doesn't go away.
No, doesn't fade away. It does not fade away at all. And what ended up happening was that I found that the time that I spent with them became richer because it was so purposeful and so intentional, right? Because I'd be home and I felt physically, because I'm in the same space with them, that we're spending time, but we weren't, because I was spending all that time frustrated because I had to keep up with laundry for, 6 people, and keep up with, like keep up with cooking, keeping up with the house, which felt like a never ending cycle because cleaning my house was like shoveling while it was snowing. Right. And so
yes.
I wasn't really spending a lot of like one-on-one time with them and forcing myself to stop. Whereas now, because I'm busy, I know I put it in my schedule where there are things that have become non-negotiables that belong just to them. And they know that, right? So they know that there's a hard stop. And I know that we have a culture, even in real estate, where, it's hustle nonstop 24/7. Like I did that for a second, but I don't buy into that. And I found a way, or I believe that there are always options to still be successful and not buy into that. Or also like run your business like a business and not necessarily like a never ending service. Right. So I set that expectation even with my clients early to say, this is what time my day stops. This is because, there is no emergency at 8:00 at night that I can handle. Like if your house is on fire, you shouldn't be calling me anyway. You should be calling 911, right? So there aren't many things. So
is that part of your buyer consult listen, or your seller consult?
I promise you it is. Like, and there are people who come to me because I'm that honest and open, and there's some who that might not work for. But that is the way that I run my business, is that there is a hard stop in terms of when I'm going to be engaging with clients, unless there's an absolute emergency. I'm not unrealistic. But if there's not an absolute emergency, there's a hard stop to when my day ends. I just recently stopped working on Sundays. And there's systems that are put into place to still make these things work. But when I have time with my kids, it's intentional. Like we plan it out, or, and I even I think, one of the things that motivates me the most is to push harder in the time that I am working to kind of get more success, because then as my business grew, I started leveraging out things at home that traditionally we thought moms have to do. Right. Mm-hmm. And then I have a coach who was like, you're not less of a mom if you're not doing your kids' laundry. Right. And so I was like, and so, I figured out how much I make an hour, and I'm like, okay, I can pay somebody $20 an hour to handle that thing for me. And now that time, and she's like, when you do have free time, would you rather be spending it doing the laundry, or would you rather spend it cuddling on the couch with your kids? And I'm like, on the couch with my kids. Mm-hmm. And so that was like a push to, close a couple more houses a year so that I could afford to do those things. And then I could spend that time with them. So when we're together, we go hard with each other. Like we play, yesterday I got off of work and I promised them we were going to the neighborhood pool, and we went to the neighborhood pool, and there was no laptop. It was closed, and we spent that time together, and that was a memory they had. And then after they went to bed, I made the choice that there was a couple things I wanted to get done, and I did, but I still didn't lose, the opportunity to spend it with them.
Yeah,
Did I answer that? That was a really long response.
No, that's perfect. And I want to highlight a couple of things about what you said, because I think they were so good. And this topic, Kristen and I are passionate about. It's about figuring out who your authentic self is. So for you, Allonda, I think that women put so much pressure on themselves of what they're supposed to be or how things are supposed to play out. And for somebody, for some people out there, staying at home and taking care of the house, that is what they're supposed to be doing. That's how God wired them.
Absolutely.
That's their jam. They're
That
happy.
is my mom.
Yeah, that's not me. I'd rather take blunt objects and pluck my eyeballs out. but I think the point that you made is you are acting in a role you thought you should have, and so therefore you poured everything. And even Jesus went and took a rest. You know what I mean? Jesus did things for himself to connect back with his Father and be the God that he is, right? So you just said you had this epiphany that said, this is not authentically me. I need to have accomplishments and achievements outside of the home because that's who I am. And that's a bold move. And I think there's lots of moms out there that are staying at home thinking to themselves, but I'm supposed to be at home. Maybe you are if you feel fulfilled and you're like full of joy and you're happy and you feel like you're in your sweet spot. But if you're not, that guilt of stepping out because you think that you're supposed to do one thing or another is a trap. It's like a ball and chain.
Yes. Well, and it's like year after year after year. That is so much like I'm literally thinking of a girl I know right now who's spent the last 15 years and she's completely lost herself. And so I just wish like people would know it doesn't have to be like that.
And if you lose yourself, guess what else you're going to lose? Your marriage.
Oh, yeah, and that's happened.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Super sad.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that when you talked about that guilt, like and please know that this wasn't like a smooth and easy transition. I wasn't like, I found my thing. Like it came with guilt, but I had to make a choice to not believe the lies that kind of were, being kind of funneling through my head and like acknowledge and like really see the good that was coming out of it. Like I don't feel mom guilt at all, like in any capacity. I don't let myself, I think that it is a lie. I think it's a trick of the enemy and I don't like give into it at all. But that's it's a process. It takes a bit to get there.
And that's huge to highlight is that it gets better because that is so true. I remember for so long it was so hard for me to work out because it was like I'm working and how am I going to go spend another hour away from my kids? And it was like years of that. And then when I started being like, no, it's time for me to be able to do that stuff, I don't feel bad at all. I'm like, I have to work out. Otherwise, I'm not nice. So
we don't want a not nice Kristen.
But it gets easier is what you're saying. And that is so true. It is so hard. That mom guilt is the worst thing ever, but it goes away. It goes away.
And you have to change your perspective. Like you just said, like your kids, think about it this way. Your kids don't want a not nice Kristen. My kids like me better when I'm kind and obviously I'm not perfect, so that's not going to happen in any capacity, especially when the rooms are a mess and I've gotten on them 12 times. But overall, when you change your perspective, it's the same way you do as a realtor, right? When we always have the thought as real estate agents that we're imposing on someone when we're offering the services that we can do, when we're trying to help them sell their house. When you change your perspective and say, no, I can be a benefit to them. Like this is a help when I am, reaching out to folks and I'm, asking if they're interested in selling their house. You might come across somebody who's like, man, I've really needed somebody to do this. I'm struggling with my mortgage and I can't keep up. But if you didn't have the right perspective to say I am of service to them, you would have missed that opportunity. And the same idea when it comes to you kind of reclaiming your own identity, that's a service to your kids. When I am full of joy and I am fulfilled and I don't feel depleted and I'm not giving out of, I'm not feeling constant irritation because they're always touching me. You know what I mean? Like,
I know what you mean.
Yes, I do.
I was like, Lord, your hands are never off of me. But now, it's a gift because the time that I have with them, it's like excitement, right? And it's not like, again, there's never a point of perfection, but overall the perspective is like, I'm offering them a better mother than one who is tired, depressed, constantly anxious, constantly irritated, and constantly, not really feeling fulfilled.
Yeah.
I think that I'm giving them a better version of myself. So, and like I think you said earlier, like if I was called to be home and that was like my thing, I still think that there's something that I find that's mine, right?
Yes.
Like I've known moms who, they might teach other people how to be super efficient as a mom at home. Like whatever it is, I think that all of us need something that solely belongs to us.
I want you to go back for a minute, because there's got to be, I can imagine that there's somebody out there going, okay, wait, I'm at home and I'm totally relating to Allonda, and I want to be at the confident Allonda. I want to be a confident Allonda, right? So talk about the transition, because now somebody's going, what does this transition look like? Or what are some of the things that I should expect? Or what are some of the oppositions that you just have to expect when you make a change like that?
Well, the transition, I think everybody's going to look different, right? Because if you aren't married or you don't have a partner, your transition won't look the same way mine will. So I think that you adjust to make sense that it makes sense for your life. One, you can't compare to what other people are doing. So don't compare your journey or how quickly you get there to somebody else. Set out for a path that makes sense for the life that you have right now is one. Two, embrace the word grace as much as you can and give yourself lots of it, because it takes time. And it does not work out perfectly as you go. Like, give yourself time to kind of make mistakes. We create systems in our house to try to make my work make sense, to try to make my husband's work make sense, and still try to make all the kids' schedules work. And sometimes those schedules blow up and they're, a nightmare and they don't work. But grace gives you that room to say, okay, that didn't work. Let's try it this way. Right. So give yourself an opportunity to kind of, trial and error, fail. My transition kind of looked like I was home. I made the decision that I wanted to go back to work. Thanks to my third child, who was the child who has the personality that's most like mine, and I didn't realize it, and I was losing it. So she was the reason I was like, okay, I need something. And so I started working part-time, and then I ended up going back to work full-time, and I was working in marketing at a university, and I got promoted really fast. And that kind of awakened in me whoa, I had forgotten oh, I am super ambitious and forgotten. And so that was kind of the impetus to me, realizing that this was the thing that kind of brought me to life. And then I made the decision to transition into real estate. It was a long, story to get there, but I ended up going into real estate, and, that was my jam. And again, trial and error in terms of what schedules would work. I couldn't go in full fledged, a single person that didn't have kids. My life couldn't look like that. And so we, did things that make sense. So for me, I'm an early riser, so I get up really early. So even when I was studying for the real estate exam, this is what my life was, is that I would get up really early in the morning before the kids would get up. I would try to be really intentional about certain days of the week and we do this right now, we call, Sundays are the days that I don't work anymore. But even when I did, there were the early part of Sunday, I would spend that time really, really preparing out for the week. So that was making sure that clothes were laid out. I have those little cubbies that hang in the closet. So I often will have all their clothes laid out for the week. Anything that I could do on that day to prepare them to win for the week, we would. We would kind of have a calendar planning meeting, my husband and I. Again, never perfect. There were times we would do it, man, that week was trash. This was a nightmare. And so, you try again and keep figuring out what makes sense for you. We now grocery shop online, so that makes life easier. And we just, one of us can go and grab the groceries. That's made life easier. I just recently started, dropping clothes off at a place that washes clothes, dries clothes, and, has all our stuff organized. I would never have done that before. I felt like I was doing my family a disservice, and I'm just why? What makes me a better mother because I separated clothes? You know what I mean? And so,
what does something like that cost? I've never even heard of this, where you can drop all your clothes off. It's not a dry cleaner, right? Because No. It's like a normal laundromat, but they have a space, and there's a few of them here where I live, but they have a space in the back where if you go back there, you drop them off, they weigh your clothes, and you pay per pound. So my husband doesn't like for other people to wash his clothes, and I'm like, that's okay, as long as you're okay with knowing that I don't have time to do it. And he's like, no, that's fine. So he does his own. I did start teaching our two oldest, so our 11-year-old daughter and my 9-year-old son, they now know how to wash their own clothes. But if there's a week where it just got, to be too much, it's not necessarily every single week, but if there's a week where we just got out of rotation, I don't mind telling everybody, grab your stuff, put it in the, basket, load it up in my car, I drop it off. They take it out.
and then load it back in my car. So it's about, I can't remember. It's like per pound though, maybe like $1 per pound or something like that.
Good dollar. That's a good dollar.
Yeah, it's worth. Listen, again, and I would not have, like, when we couldn't afford that didn't make sense. So as we, as business grew, those things started to make more sense because the more business, that was happening, it was easier to do. But when it didn't, like, again, I would still make plans. Like, I try, one, to make my kids as independent as I can. One, because it's a gift to them because they need to be independent. And it helped me to see that they were capable of a lot more than I was allowing them to be capable of. They need to know that because I don't want kids going to college and like calling me every weekend, like, hey, can you come and do my laundry?
Yeah, no.
And then it just, and it, it freed us up. And that was something else that I helped them understand, is that it also freed, like, I'm like, if I'm spending all my time cleaning up behind you, that robs us of the time that we can be doing something that's fun, right?
Yeah.
And so there are times, like, there's a timer that I'll set, sometimes throughout the day where it'll just be like a 15-minute cleanup just to keep the house from turning into a complete disaster, nightmare. Just small things that you can do to, like, keep this is what I do every week when I'm preparing to go on my coaching sessions. I have a coach myself, and then I sometimes coach other agents. Is that I'm always thinking of what small thing can I tweak to make life a little bit more efficient, right? Or how do I evaluate? You know, so it's not an overwhelming thing. So I'm naming a lot of things, but it took like, I've been licensed now for almost 3 years. Is that it took a while to get there. So don't feel like you have to do all the things, right? And even while you're not doing all the things, be okay with not everything being perfect. And each week, I just figure out, what could I have done a little bit better? So, I have, kids. Oh, go ahead.
So just a couple things, because I want our audience to really hear a few points as we begin to wrap this up. Number one, Allonda, I heard the word grace, and that's not just grace for yourself, but grace for how your husband's handling it, how your kids are handling it. When things go poorly. I also heard the point about communication. You were talking to your husband about what was going on. You were talking to your kids about what was going on. And then I think finally, because your tips were awesome, but recognize that was something she worked on over years, saying, how can this get better? How can this get better? And so that she can create an incredible career for herself. And in her case, that's like her jam, and this wonderful family with intentionality. So I love all of these tips, and I'll bet you we're going to have some women rewinding going, what did she say right there? Because I need that. I need that. That was awesome.
Yes, and I will second that. The grocery delivery, I just started. My coach made me do that. If you're not doing that,
oh my God, it's so good.
It's like I think it's like $10 to $15. I end up saving money because I'm not buying a bunch of stuff I don't need, and it is like it just shows up so perfectly at my doorstep. I love it. You have to. 100%.
I agree with that part because I would always go over our budget when I was in store. And now whatever budget I have set, I'd never go over it because I almost am essentially just reordering a lot of the same things.
Yep.
And my mind isn't getting distracted. Yes, 100%.
With those Oreos. Damn those Oreos.
Yeah, I don't even...
little people in the cart with you adding in things that you didn't know they were grabbing.
That's right.
Totally. Oh my gosh. Well, you've been so great today. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, I think
Thank you so much for having me.
I think that somebody is sitting at home right now going, "Oh my gosh, I'm her. I need to think about how God has wired me and what my purpose is, and it's not what I'm doing right now."
Yes, 100%.
I love that. Yeah, so okay, everyone.
And go boldly.
Yeah, go boldly. Yes, that is so important. If you need to talk with any of us about how you need to get out of your rut, I know all of us would spend a few minutes and help 100%. You. So please message us and look forward to November 4th and 5th, where Kristen and I will be hosting the next Flourish seminar. All women speakers, 2-day seminar with lots of excuses to hang out and fellowship. Like we're going to add excursions this year, like escape the room and hiking and goat yoga and all kinds of different excursions around absolutely fantastic speakers. And we even have a surprise for you this year. So go onto our Instagram and look in our bio for the link to get tickets for Flourish before they sell out. Allonda, thank you again for your time. Don't hop off quite yet, but we're going to wrap it up.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys.
Bye.